Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to yet another session of Conversation on Consciousness. We have a very special guest with us today. Before I introduce the guest for the day, I would like to chant a short prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Pante Guru Paramparam. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Today we have Dr. Karanam Aravinda Rauji. Thank you so much for joining us, Aravinda ji.
Thank you.
To give a brief introduction, Aravinda ji joined the Indian Police Service in June 1977 and completed 34 years of service in the year 2011 in various capacities. He served as Superintendent of Police in 5 districts, Commissioner of Police for Vijayawada, and Head of Police Force, Director General of Police, Andhra Pradesh, to name a few. He earned the Indian Police Medal and the President's Medal for Distinguished Service. With regard to his Sanskrit and Vedanta studies, he studied under the guidance of Maha Mahopadhyay, Padma Shri P. Sri Ramachandrudu, renowned professor in Sanskrit. He also studied Vedanta under the guidance of Maha Mahopadhyay, Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati ji. He has authored several books such as Kena Upanishad in English based on Sri Shankaracharya's commentary, How to Tell Hinduism to Your Child, Kathopanishad with Telugu translation, commentary on Shankara Bhashyam, to name a few. The honorary title Vachaspati was awarded to him by the Rashtriya Samskrita Vidyapith, Tirupati, in February 2018. The title Samskrita Seva Vrati was awarded to him by the Rashtriya Samskrita Samsthan, New Delhi, in August 2018. Thank you so much once again for joining us, Aravinda ji. We usually begin our interview with the question, could you please share your spiritual journey with us? What have been some events in your life that has led you towards the path of Vedanta?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, Sri Hari Vittal. This is a nice question. It was not exactly a spiritual journey, if I want to be honest. It did not start like a spiritual journey. It started more like a sort of intellectual journey, in the sense that I wanted to know what is there in our books. Because it happens that when we work in police or in any field which is connected with the people, we meet lot many people, and particularly in police, we interact with all sections of people. And I used to see reports. We also see reports about what the various communities are doing, and then how they are behaving, and then what type of literature they are producing, what type of pamphlets and what type of propaganda they are doing, etc., etc. In one situation, it so happened that on one occasion, we were interrogating a group of people of a particular community. And they had so much of conviction about their faith. Yes, we belong to a superior religion. It is our duty to convert you all. The person who was under interrogation, he had that courage of conviction to tell me that it was his duty to convert me. So at that time, I also thought about what exactly do our books say. Because all other people, they say, yes, ours is the most superior religion, and then we talk about only one God, and you have got about 100 gods, etc., etc. So many things, so many labels they put on Hinduism. So then I wanted to know what it is, and luckily for me, I had some Sanskrit background right from my childhood. So with that background, I tried to improve my Sanskrit, and I went to my first guru was Dr. Pullala Sri Ramachandrudu, as you said. He was a retired professor in Sanskrit and a very, very eminent scholar. And I and a few other people, we used to go, and then every day we used to go for a few years. We learned under him, like Gita Bhashyam, some Upanishad Bhashyam, then books like Sarva Darshana Sangraha, etc. Some other books we studied. So like that, it went on and on. After some time, I came in contact with Tattvavidananda Swamiji. By that time, my Guru Pullela Sri Ramachandrudu had become too old. So with the Tattvavidanandaji's talks, they were all available on the tube. Plus, I used to meet him. So he is also a great teacher. He is a very active teacher. He is right now in America. So like that, it started. But once you start as an intellectual journey, it gradually turns into, at some point of time, it turns into a spiritual journey, because after reading various things basically about the doctrine has to be known in order to maybe counter the other people. Very any wrong projection if they give, we can counter if we know the doctrine. But then at the same time, we also see that this Vedanta, it holds a mirror to our own nature. It tells us what we are, where we are in that spiritual, in that as a human being. So gradually, we also feel ashamed of ourselves, and then we try to follow that path, and then try to, okay, let me reduce my anger, let me try to reduce my attachment. So like that, the way you can slowly we try and turn into this field. Let me do this as my duty. Let me do this as karma yoga. So starting like that, it goes on. Gradually, it becomes spirituality. So that is how I got into this spiritual journey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing about that, Aravinda ji. So you have served in the Indian Police Department for a substantial time of your life, dedicating your efforts to the nation. Could you please share some lessons and insights from this experience?
Yes, my 34 years of service in police, during that time, the most remarkable thing during that time was the Maoist movement, left-wing extremist movement, all over the country. All over the country, that was the thing. And it so happened that I happened to work in those extremist affected areas. And to my luck, we also did produce some good results. And I also headed the intelligence wing relating to that particular extremism and all that. I also headed one organization, a commando wing called Greyhounds, a commando wing for that. I was also in charge of various anti-terrorist operations and things like that. So that is how it went on for a long time. But after some time, of course, that extremist movement has now weakened. So my service, mostly two angles. If some notable things are, one is the left-wing extremism, the other is the Islamic terrorism. So these two things were mainly our subjects. Given today, the Islamic terrorism has taken an upper hand. The left-wing extremism has gone down. So this is what we were. These are the two notable things which we saw. And of course, in the police, naturally, in the police or in any government service, there are there is a particular code of conduct. There are certain limitations. There are certain possibilities. All that. And what I found was one remarkable thing after retirement. What I realized was that we were very ignorant about the developments in the world. We were very ignorant about the civilizational battle which is taking place. We were very ignorant about how the two predator religions are trying to actually wipe out all other religions in the whole world, and then by hook or crook, and then give a dog a bad name and hang him. So that sort of thing. So how they are doing, and how various organizations, they are inspired by them, how they are nourished by them, and how these organizations create some problems which become law and order problems, and we don't even know the roots. We don't even know the roots, and then we go with the Indian Penal Code and the Civil Procedure, Criminal Procedure Code, which are very inadequate, and which even don't give us an idea about what is the background. So that sort of ignorance is prevailing even now. In the service, ignorance is prevailing even now. But luckily, after retirement, naturally, in the last 10 years or so, there is so much of information from social media, and writers like Rajiv Malhotra, who have brought out that book, was an eye opener for me. I read it after my retirement. It just came out at that time. So sometime in November, December 2011. So that is how I feel that the government servants, even at the very high level, or even today, are very ignorant about the developments in the world at a global level, what is happening, and how various things are impacting the Indian society, and how there are some experiments going on to divide the Indian society, all these things. The people who are the decision makers do not know, the politicians do not know, the police people do not know, the intellectuals, some people they know, some people are conniving with that, some people are stakeholders and partners. The only ignorant people are those in the administration. So that is one remarkable thing, even now. So that is how it is.
Right. That's a very interesting observation. Thank you for sharing that, Aravinda ji. So my next question is, while you were busy serving the nation, what led you to your gurus? Uh, could you please share some of your experiences studying under their tutelage?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I told you the reason why I wanted to know about our text. Well, for example, Gita. What does Gita say? And luckily for me, I read Gita only. Yeah, Gita, and I started with the right books, that is Gita, the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, etc. I didn't go to Puranas, and then I didn't go to those things. So, uh, as you said, the two teachers, if I want to tell about them, one was a very, very eminent scholar, Padma Shri Mahamahopadhyaya Pillai Swami. He wrote more than about 150 books on various things. Take a subject and he has written, whether it is Vyakarana or Sahitya, whether it is Mimamsa Shastra, whether it is Vedanta, anything. Poetics, all this, Alankara Shastra, all those things. And the other teacher was the other Swamiji. He's a Swamiji. He's a Swamiji in the absolute pure sense of the word. He's a full-fledged. He's a Swamiji. He's a highly evolved person and a very great teacher. Very great teacher means a teacher is somebody who tells you, say, not necessarily the literal meaning of a word, but he makes you realize what is the real meaning. For example, if I want to give an example, for example, something like, suppose I say, Asanga Chidrupa, Asanga. What exactly is Asanga? What is attachment? And what should we do to develop that Asanga Shastrena Dradhena Chitva? Suppose we say, what is that Asanga Shastra? Or apeksha, anapekshaha, shuchihi, dakshaha. Words like that, we have to actually realize their purport. And we should also feel it and we should try to cultivate it. So that sort of, for that, the teacher also should have done some tapas. So the Swamiji, whom I am talking about, he helps in mananam and nididhyasana. A great scholar will help you in Shravanam. A great scholar will tell you, oh, this is the subject, and then no, that is very good for Shravanam. You see all the doctrine very correctly, you understand. The other person, he will tell you, a real tapasvi will take you through guide you through mananam and nididhyasanam. So that is the difference I found. And this mananam and nididhyasanam are very, very important. So that is how a guru is really required. So that is what I felt.
Wonderful. And it was really inspiring to know how both the acharyas have inspired you in
Yeah,
your
we
journey.
need both type of teachers. For example,
Yes.
there are some Shastra Pandits. The Shastra Pandits are very, very essential to tell us the text. But at the same time, some gurus means some really we have to see. We have to see who, how they can communicate, how they can make us understand a particular concept.
Absolutely.
Urdhvam Adhashakam Ashwatham Prahuravayam. What is that shaka? What is that tree? You have to feel them, feel it.
Yes.
So I listen to people like, not listen, I read, for example, in Hindi, if you know Hindi, there is one Swamiji called Swami Ram Sukadas, written a wonderful commentary on the Gita. It's available on this Gita super site also. So if you read it, you get such great insights into the text. And if you really listen to them, if you are fortunate to listen to such people, then we really understand it. It goes to the level of Manana and Nididhyasana.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. To the next question, it was interesting to note that you had won a gold medal for your PhD thesis on the topic, the concept of jnanam in the Upanishads. Could you shed some light on the findings and reflections on this thesis, please?
Yes. In fact, I took the 10 major Upanishads for my study. I did not take all the other Upanishads, 10 major Upanishads. Maybe I have just referred other things here and there, but mostly the 10 major Upanishads. And the structure of the Upanishad, if we see, generally they talk about the Jiva, they talk about Brahma, and they also talk about the Jagat and the interrelationship among them. And some Upanishads, they focus on a particular thing. For example, Kena Upanishad, it doesn't talk much about Jiva and it doesn't talk about Jagat. It only talks about Jnanam. It talks about, I say, the limitations of human knowledge. And yeah, the Tadeva Brahmatvam with the Enedam Yadidam Upasate, the limitations of religion also. There, for example, Tadeva Brahmatvam with the Nedam Yadidam Upasate, not what you are worshipping is not the real thing. It is so boldly it says, and focuses on who is the knower and what is the who is the seer. So that way, the Upanishads, each Upanishad focuses on something. There are some Upanishads which broadly cover all these aspects. For example, Katha Upanishad, Mandaka Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, they broadly cover all these aspects. And some go very elaborately, like Chandogya Upanishad and also Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So that is how we see. And my study was from the point of view of Jnana, what exactly is called Brahma Jnanam, and the very idea of consciousness also, the very idea of consciousness. We know that there is what is called, there are only two things we see as we broadly see, Chetana and Jadam. And this Jada and Chetana division is very well known. Jada is sentient and insentient. And there are different views about this Jada and Chetana. Different views, that is, most right from the most ancient times, right from Charvakas, for example, if you take even 5,000 years ago, or even at that time, our people thought about this Jada and Chetana controversy. We don't see that in Western philosophy. It is there, it was there to some extent in Greek philosophy, but after the Greek civilization was decimated. But in the Western world, we see that mostly about, if you see the Western philosophy, mostly about external world. And Swami Ramatirtha rightly points out that it is the Indian philosophers who talked about consciousness, mind, right from the beginning. So anyway, that Jada and Chaitanya division, and also whether Jadam, that is insentient matter, gives rise to consciousness, or whether consciousness is different and Jadam also is different. These two are independently there, independently exist, or whether these two are also are there, and then they both they come under one conscious entity called Paramatma or Vishnu. So that way, and also whether consciousness is producing matter. So these types of things, various things were there. And what Advaita says is that consciousness appears as matter. Consciousness manifests as matter. This is what Advaita says. And right till now, even modern science has not been able to decode it. Modern science could not finally say, give a final word about which is primary. They say even in the subatomic particles there is some there is what is called consciousness, there is what is called intelligence. So what exactly is this intelligence? How is it coming? Even modern science is not able to say. But the rishis, of course, they have a view. If you want to call it, you can call it a view, you can call it an opinion, which may be supported by science or which may be refuted by science. We do not know how the thought process goes. So that is how we see. And also in my study, I also took the examples from the Gita. For example, if we see Gita starting from 7th Adhyaya, we see about the nature of Brahman, nature of what exactly is the Brahman. And Brahman, according to Upanishads, is defined as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That is one famous, definition of Brahma. That is infinitely existing consciousness. So that is what it is, if we want to tell in English, infinitely existing. It is existence and at the same time conscious, and at the same time it is infinite. Why is it Sat? Sat is something which cannot be negated at any point of time. That is Trikala Abhatyam, they say. Then again, if it is a mere Sat, there can be a question, oh, it is somewhere it is like a huge rock or something like that. So it is not like a huge rock or something like anything like that. It is of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness means, again, there is a question may arise. Oh yes, I also do have intelligence. We all feel that we have intelligence. I think I know this, I know that, etc., etc. But this is something which is a pure consciousness, which means an objectless consciousness where there is no seer and seen. There is no seer. It is the very nature is consciousness. It is like a light which is falling on an object. And then in the light, in the presence of that light, we are able to see so many things. The light itself is not seeing anything. Light itself is not interacting with anything. So this jnanam or consciousness is somewhat like that. And okay, then this jnanam can be limited also. This jnanam can be limited, like I am seeing you now, you are seeing me now. So this jnanam can also be limited. So that is why, in order to avoid that, they also said anantam, satyam, jnanam, anantam. So there was a purpose for adding these three things. So that is the nature of that consciousness. And we see this in various Upanishads in different ways. For example, para and apara we also see in the Upanishad. Then the same thing we see in Gita also, in the 7th chapter of the Gita. For example, Bhumir Apo Analo Vayuhu Kham Mano Buddhirevacha, that 7th chapter, I mean Shloka 4. He talks about what is the lower Prakriti. Lower Prakriti is, that is Jada, insentient. And the higher Prakriti, which is Jiva, which is the sentient. And the Jiva Prakriti, that is I am, that is my nature. Para Vidhi Me Param, he says, Apara. Apareyam itaswanyam prakritim vidhi me param. Aparam prakritim vidhi. You know that param prakriti, my para prakriti, you know. What all I said till now is apara prakriti. So that is what he says. So like this, this para and apara, this distinction is there in the Upanishads also. Then the same, for the same terms, for the same words, there are other words like druk and drushya. There is, in 13th chapter, we see the words like kshetrajna and kshetra. Kshetrajna is the knower, and kshetram is something which is known. Kshetram is something which is not, it is different from me. Idam shariram, idam, whatever can be seen as idam. Idam is this. Whatever can be seen as idam cannot be me. So that idam shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidhiyate. There he is making a point that this sharira, this is stola sharira, karana sharira, and also this sukshma sharira, this is something which is idam. It is something which is a drusyam. And the seer, that consciousness which is reflecting on this antahkarana, is something that is what we call chidabhasa. You see, consciousness itself is not the seer, because in consciousness, pure consciousness, there is no such thing as seer or seen. And in the jada, there is no such thing as the seer or seen. Then who is the seer? Who is the seer means that consciousness which is reflecting in the antahkarana, which is called the chidabhasa, it is called the seer. So very tricky question. So that is how this thing is described. And again, the thing is, Chaitanyam is also what is called eternal. It is always there. And how do you say it is always there? Chaitanyam is neither born, najayate, mriyate, etc. How do you say that it is it is not born at all? For that, we see the opening verses of Panchadashi, Vidyaranyas Panchadashi, if we see. There he explains, if you want to say that something is born, in very simple terms to explain, if you want to say that something is born, then there should be a witness to that. If you say that consciousness is born at some point of time, there should be a witness for that. And that witness also should be a conscious entity. And when was that witness born? Then again, if some other entity is there to say that, oh, this was born at that time, then that also it is a conscious entity. It goes, that anavastha dosha, they say, anavastha, that is, it goes on and on and on. So consciousness is something which is, it is eternal. It has to be accepted. So that is how our people have defined. And another thing we see about consciousness is consciousness which is manifesting as matter. How does it manifest is the question. Then Advaita very honestly admits we do not know. That is what we say. Anirvachaniya. Maya, Anirvachaniya Shakti. It is some Shakti, it is a power, it is a manifesting power. Anirvachaniya. Very, very, very honest. I find it is a very honest statement. Anirvachaniya Shakti. And Advaita also has adopted the Sankhya Prakriya. Sankhya, Tattva Viveshanam, the 24 Tattvas, Prakriti, Prakriter, Mahan, Mahato, Ahankara. So that thing, it goes on. And that Mahat, which is that cosmic intellect is there. And from that cosmic intellect, the notion of I, that Ahankara is born. So if we want to explain the creation, etc., how does it translate into Vedanta terms? If you visualize consciousness, the pure consciousness or the Brahman as a huge ocean of consciousness, and if you visualize a huge wave which is rising up, that huge wave, suddenly it gets the notion, yes, I have some dimensions, I. That huge wave is that ahankara, that consciousness, that buddhi, that buddhi arises, and then that buddhi, I, that ahankara is there. And when there is notion of I naturally want to equip myself, naturally want to enrich myself, I want to gather this, I want to gather that, I want to build a house, I want to do this, that, etc. So like that, this from that, the tanmatras, 5 tanmatras, the subtle matter comes, the subtle matter, and from the subtle matter, the gross matter, that is Sthola Bhutani. And again, simultaneously, this the same Sthula Sukshma Bhuta, that is subtle matter, transforms into our Indriyas and the mind. And this gross matter, that is Sthula Bhutani, it becomes our body, Sthula body, gross body. So that is how the body mind complex of not only the human being but all the beings. And in Vedanta, jiva is a generic term which applies right from a microbe to a dinosaur, the bacteria, from bacteria to a dinosaur, a human being, a scorpion, a snake, anything, a lion, anything. All these things are jiva, which have a body and which have an antahkarana. And that is what Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, all the antahkaranas and all the limbs of all the beings, that is that cosmic being Virat. So like that, it's such a wonderful description. The whole universe is the creation is explained like that. And what is the purpose of explaining the creation? The purpose is not to say that creation has happened in this way, but to show that there is nothing apart from Brahman. Everything we see is only a manifestation in the Brahman. So that is the purpose. After writing the entire commentary on Tattvam, what is this, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, at the end, Shankaracharya writes, all this is not meant to show that Sushti has happened in this way. It is meant to show that Karana Vyatiriktam, apart from Karana, there is no other Karyam. Whatever is the gold, it is in so many forms. So that is how this explanation is there. Then again, this Chaitanya is something which is unchanging. That is another point. Some other examples which they give is like a sunlight which is falling on all the so many water bodies, and there are so many reflections, water reflections of sun, and the reflection of sun may differ. Sunlight doesn't differ. Sun doesn't undergo any change. Whereas the reflection depends on the purity of the water, the turbidity and the tranquility. Let us say, if the water is tranquil, the image is tranquil. If the water is shaky, the image is shaky. If the water is pure, the image is pure. If the water is turbid, the image also is turbid. So like that, the water body is something similar to our antahkarana. Our antahkarana with all our vasanas, with all our karma, all these vasanas and all that. That is what is actively moving about in the world. Whereas the intelligence, the Chaitanyam is common to us. The Chaitanyam is common to Rama, common to Ravana also. The same Chaitanya is common to both of them. Only the Antahkarana had differed. So that is one great thing we see. And the same, there is only one consciousness and not many. That is another thing. Ekashloki, we see Ekashloki, who is the seer and who is the seen. So the sense organs see the external objects. The sense organs are seen by the mind, and this mind is again seen by the buddhi, that cosmic. Then again, this buddhi is just a fragment of that, or rather a sparkling of that cosmic buddhi. So that is how the whole structure is explained, and it is in a way it's a very wonderful understanding of the whole situation, human situation, and something which even the science has not negated so far. Science has not negated so far. That is the reason why many educated people all over the world, they like our Gita and also the Upanishads.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure it would have been an enriching experience. It was an enriching experience just listening to your reflection and insights as you were sharing, Aravinda. And to the next question, a very essential contribution amidst the voluminous work that you have produced, is your book How to Tell Hinduism to Your Child. Why do you think this book was necessary, and how could a Hindu parent benefit from this work of yours?
Yeah, this. I felt it was very needed, very much needed, because about 10 years ago, when I went to US, and I had an chance to interact with some children there. Then I realized that these people are really, I mean, the parents and the children, they are really confused about what exactly is, say, the fundamentals of our religion. So they have absolutely no idea. And the American textbooks, they do represent Hinduism in very bad light. I saw one passage about Purusha Sukta, and that Purusha Sukta was such an atrocious translation of whatever was there in that book was a very atrocious translation of the actual Purusha Sukta. And then there, the Brahmin was made a villain. Brahmin was made a villain. He was a person who had all the pleasures of the world, who enjoyed the entire thing, who exploited all other people. He had the best things in the world, and the other people were downtrodden, something like that. So, and similarly, various other things. So then I thought our parents, they need to be told about what exactly are the fundamentals of Hinduism. So that is how, and that is when I thought about writing a book for the young parents to tell their children. Because if we don't tell our children the fundamentals of Hinduism, you see why we have so many gods. So the child will continue to behave. They continue to believe, oh, we have got so many gods. Eh? And then somebody will say, oh, Vaishnava is different and Shaiva is different. Only 2 days ago, when that Kamal Hassan also made a statement, oh, Cholas, in Cholas time, there was no Hinduism, there were only Vaishnavas, there were Shaivas. They were only quarreling, there was no Hinduism. Then that fellow, had he known that there is what is called Sanatana Dharma in the last 10,000 years, and there are certain basic texts called Upanishads and Vedas, and then everybody accepted these things, and then all these Vaishnava, Shaiva, all these things are existing only because of the spirit of tolerance, which is given in the Upanishads. The Upanishads say, Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sa Hari, Sa Indra, Sotshara, Paramaswarat, whether you call it Shiva or Vishnu or anything, Indra or anything, that is only one entity. Huh? So that spirit of tolerance, that spirit of inclusiveness, that spirit of liberalism is there only in our tradition and not in any other tradition. It has to be known to everybody. So my idea in writing that book was basically for this. For example, a man like Kamal Hassan, an opinion maker, very great actor, millions of people listen to him. If you and I talk now, not even 5 people or 10 people will listen. Maybe after it is uploaded, maybe a few people, maybe maximum 100 people may see. But then who will tell, who will counter that man? So it has to be known to everybody. It has to be known to large number of people. So if we have allowed so many gods and so many god forms, it is not out of foolishness. We know that there is only one reality. And already there are so many traditions which are existing in the society. There is no need to wipe out. We can't, and all these, the sages who we had vision of those Upanishads, they did not have bands of people to go and eliminate other rivals. They did not have an agenda to establish this as a religion. So their agenda, their aim was only to know the truth. What is the absolute reality? What is truth? So we have to educate as many number of people as possible about the basics of our tradition. So that is the point.
Absolutely, and the necessity of this is unparalleled in these times, especially.
Yeah, for example, people say, "Oh, your gods, they drink blood. They have so many weapons in their hands. They drink blood, etc." And what is that? We have to see that symbolism.
Symbolism.
And then, for example, you might have heard this story about this Rakta Bija, Devi Saptashati. We see there are three stories.
Yes.
In the very first story, there is one reference to Vishnu Karnamalodbhutau. What is this? Madhu Kaitava. Madhu and Kaitava. They were born from the wax ear of Lord Vishnu. Then some person will ask, "Oh, you fellows, you have written all types of nonsensical stories and you have fooled us. Huh? What is this Vishnu Karnamalodbhutau?" So if you go to the commentaries and then if you go search, I found a wonderful book in Hindi. For example, it is called Sadhana Samar. For example, those who know Hindu can see Sadhana Samar. Sadhana is spiritual quest. Samara is a battle. So the spiritual quest is a sort of battle. And with whom are you battling? You are battling with your own. Jahi Shatrum Mahabaho Kama Rupam Durasatam, as Krishna says, Kama, the desire is a Shatru. Desire is a Shatru, and then Aham is a Shatru, Mama is a Shatru, or Vasanas are Shatrus, and we have to battle so many enemies within us. So this within oneself, there is an Adhyatmika Sangrama, as Shankaracharya says, the battle between the gods and demons. It is not something which is external. It is something which is Adhyatmika. Devaha Shastrodbhasita Indriya Vrtaya, he says. Deva, gods means our own indriya vrittis, our own say thought processes, which are purified by the study of shastras. And demons are because of all these impurities of mind, not because by not studying the shastras, all these impurities of mind. And in the human mind, there is a battle between these two things. Anudinam Vartamanaha Adhyatmika Sangramaha, right? Shankaracharya, actually in two places, one in the beginning of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one in the beginning of Chandogya Upanishad. So this Adhyatmika Sangrama. So, and this Karnamalodbhuta, if we see, come back to that. Karnamalam, what is this Karnamalam? Brahma was at the end of the say Vishnu was sleeping in that Yoga Nidra, he was there. Why? Because it was a Pralaya time. In the Pralaya time, there was no Srushti. When Srushti is there, Vishnu comes into picture. And Brahma wants to create. At that time, Brahma's duty was to create. When Brahma wants to create, this Tamo Guna obstructs him. Tamo Guna is, this is the Madhu and Kaitava. Why these Madhu and Kaitava? Karna Malodbhutau. Karna Malam. Karnam is Shrotrendriya, we call it Shrotrendriya. What is the importance of Shrotrendriya? Devi Bhagavatam, if we see, just a few slokas above, the Devi Bhagavatam says, the Shrotram and Netram, these two are the most important, these two are very important Indriyas, of the five Indriyas. Out of them, Shrotram comes first, because in olden days there were no books, there was no printing, there was no books, so knowledge came through ear only. And Bhagavatam also says that God enters the human heart through the ear, Shrotrendriya. So Shrotra was the most important thing. And during Pralaya, even the Vedas, they are also resolved. Even the Vedas, they undergo Laya. And when Vedas also undergo Laya, there is no Shruti. When there is no Shruti, Karna Malam has formed. And from that Karna Malam, the laziness, that is lethargy and the Tamoguna. Tamoguna forms, and then this Tamoguna wants to obstruct. Tamoguna wants to eat that Brahman. So Brahma again worships Mahamaya, and then Mahamaya wakes up this Vishnu, and then Vishnu kills him. We know that story. Again, Raktam, the Rakta Devi is sucking the blood of that Rakta Bija. Rakta is, what is that Rakta? Our own Vasanas. Our own Vasanas, when they have some sort of fertile environment. Suppose somebody comes, suppose I have lived a very bad life all through. I have become a good man now, let us say. And some old friend comes and let us say, hey, come on, let's go out. And my vasana, somewhere which is there lying latent, it comes out and then, chalo, let me say, then that is Rakta Bija. That Rakta Bija has to go away. And then the meaning of the first story is the Tamo Guna has to be eradicated by Rajo Guna. The second story is Rajoguna has to be eradicated by Sattvaguna. And the third story is even Sattvaguna has to be transcended. Even Sattvaguna has to go, because a person may have a feeling, oh, I am a great scholar, I know everything. I have read everything. I have read this Shastra, that Shastra. See, Shastra Vasana. Vasana means not necessarily bad things. There can be Shastra Vasana. There can be Loka Vasana, like Shankaracharya says in Viveka Chudamani. So these intellectual vasanas are also there. So these vasanas are this Rakta Bija. Finally, Aham and Mama are the Shumbha and Nishumbha, which have to be eradicated. So when this Devi spreads out her tongue and then licks the blood of this Rakta Bija, she is actually removing all the vasanas. So that is why in the third story, the goddess is Saraswati. The first story, goddess is Durga. The second story is Mahalakshmi. The third story is Saraswati. Saraswati is represents the Brahma Jnana. So this is what, suppose we tell on this Devi, very recently we completed Dashara. During Dashara, suppose we tell everybody, then we know, yes, what we are doing is this. This is an intellectual, this is actually a spiritual journey. Devi Saptashati is about a spiritual journey. So this is what we have to tell our people, tell hundreds and thousands of people, so that people at your age group, they know, and then transmit it to younger generations. So that it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those examples also, and relating it to the recently concluded Dashera Devi. To the next
No,
question.
recently I read, so I just suddenly recalled. Yeah.
Wonderful. What are some of the global challenges that Vedanta can help solve according to you?
Yeah, this is a very, very relevant thing. More than 150 years ago, Vivekananda has made it very, very clear that Vedanta is going to be the religion of the future. So one can, if we don't understand it properly, we may feel okay. He was just talking something glorifying Hinduism, etc. And somebody may feel like that. But if you really see Vedanta, if you see the religions, world religions, how are they? What is their real nature? Their nature is they are a belief system. World religion, the greatest religions of the world today, they are basically belief systems. One particular man came at a particular time. He said, "Yes, I had contact with God. I have communication with God, and then God has sent me this message. You have to believe in this." And then luckily he had some followers. And luckily, another gentleman, he also could conquer some people and then kill some people and then create a kingdom in his own lifetime. So that is how they came. And even today, they say, yes, ours is the only system which has to prevail on earth. But then Indian systems, they were not like that. Indian system is not only Vedanta. Whether you take Charvaka, even Charvakas, they were not foolish. They thought, they argued in a very rational way. Buddhists, they were not foolish. They also argued in a very rational way. Charvaka or Buddhism or Jainism or Sikhism. Sikhism is very close to Advaita. Very recently I came to know. I didn't know all these days. Only about a couple of years ago when I was listening to one gentleman called Professor Kapil Kapoor. Professor Kapil Kapoor. Then he talked about Sikhism and how Sikhism is so close to Advaita. Then when I read this Guru Grantha a little bit, then I saw that Guru Grantha is nothing but Advaita Vedanta. So, Sikhism, Vedanta, all these things. In Vedanta again, we have got various traditions, Madhva, Vaishnava, what is the Advaita. You would say, take all these traditions. They all argue. They have got, oh, this Purva Paksha, Siddhanta, they have got some arguments. It is not foolish belief. It is not blind belief. There is something very, very well, there is an argumentation. There is some sort of rational approach to reality. What exactly is the reality? There is a rational approach. This is what distinguishes Indian religions from the Western religions. And Vivekananda, that is why he said, when Advaita Vedanta says that yes, the truth is not a person, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, truth is not a person. It is something which is not referred to by he or she. We call it it. We use the pronoun it. So, and this is something which is manifesting as the whole universe itself. It is not favoring any religion. It is not, asking you to kill other people. That is the most, what can we say, the most accurate description of what can be the supreme reality. And as a social fallout, because truth is one, when we know what this is the truth, in the light of that truth, our ethics follow. You see, our human ethics, they follow what we know about this absolute reality. Suppose we say, oh, my God said like this. My God said, okay, I have to tan man se sar tan se juda. Then this fellow thinks that yes, my God has said it, and I have to remove the head. But then our people does not say that. We say in a totally different way. We accept all traditions. We accept all, no, not that we accept them as absolute truth. We accept them at a tentative level. Vedanta again talks at two levels. At the absolute level, it talks about the supreme Brahman, that is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, which is Asanga, Avyavaharyam, all these things, Anirdeshya, Avyavaharya, etc. At the common man's level, it also talks about a Saguna Brahma. It talks about, say, Vishnu, Shiva, all these Saguna Brahma. These are all these are needed. All these are needed for a common man to come in to purify his life and then to purify his conduct. So our people, they described it in a very logical way. So that is why he said Vedanta will be accepted by all educated people in the world, and that is what is happening. So that is how Vedanta has a great role, and all of us, we have to spread Vedanta. The greatest service we can do to Dharma is to know Dharma and then spread. Dharma Rakshati Rakshitaha means not that we go to the temple, not that we write a big check to the temple, etc. But then we know Dharma and then we spread Dharma to several people, then that only then dharma is protected, not by going to temple, not by giving donations to temple. So this also we have to tell. This also we have to tell our people. We have to know. We have to know Gita. We have to know Upanishads, and then spread the message.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Aravinda ji. My next question is, if Advaita Vedanta propounds Brahman as the finality of all pursuits and the substratum of all existence, what is the place for Murti Puja or Upasana in the tradition?
Yeah, that is what I was briefly referring to that. You see, Vedanta talks at two levels. One is for a thinker, a person who wants to understand, who wants to question, jignasu. Artho, jignasu, artharthi, jnani cha bharatarshava. That jignasu and jnani come in the first level. Artha and artharthi, these two people come in the lower level. So these two people, they want to follow a particular god, and then they want to say, maybe meditate, they want to pray, and then they want to have a quiet, pious life. So that is the thing. And they will do yajnas, they will do all karmas, etc., etc. And at the level of a seeker, he goes into study of this Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and he realizes. And what is the effect of this realization? The effect of this realization, as we were just talking, is to go beyond all limitations, go beyond all social limitations. What Upanishad says, Atimuchya Dhira, Atimuchyate, he transcends all limitations. Or Ativarnashrami, he goes beyond this Varna and Ashrama, all these limitations. Because the moment we are born, there is a stamp on us. Oh, you belong to this religion, you belong to this particular Varna, you belong to this particular subsect in this Varna. So there is so much of stamping. So all these identities we go beyond, and then I identify myself with that supreme reality. When I identify myself with that supreme reality, I have absolute love, unconditional love for all the beings. It is not only me. When I say Aham Brahmasmi, it is not only me. I am seeing as Brahma, realizing as Brahman. I realize you as Brahma. I realize every other being as Brahma. So that way, there is an unconditional love for all the beings. So that is one important thing which we see. Unconditional love, and then absolutely going beyond all types of narrow prejudices, all types of narrow identifications. So that is the level. And the Murti Puja is needed for the common man, for social discipline. Murti Puja is for the social discipline. And there also, our scholars, not scholars, our rishis, they were so intelligent that when you are doing a puja, when you go to a temple, or even when we do puja in our own house, we chant, for example, Purusha Suktam. Purusha Suktam, what is that Purusha Suktam? It is an upasana of that reality, the whole universe as one form, as one organic entity. We are visualizing the whole universe as one organic entity. And your head is equal to the head of a pipilika, an ant. That is Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. Our Shirsha and the Pipilika Shirsha, they are all parts of one reality. Then you are visualizing the whole universe as that. Then, for example, if you are reading Uttaranarayana, when puja, we also read Uttaranarayana. And there again, Sahasra Shirisham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwasham Bhuvam. Then again, we go down and down and down. We say, Sabrahma, Sashivaha, Saharisendra, Sotchar, that consciousness which is reflecting in your Antakarana, whatever name you call, that is one and the same. And Mantra Pushpam, it also says, Tvam Rudra, Tvam Brahma, Tvam Vishnu, Tvam Prajapati, etc., etc. It says. So in all our mantras also, our rishis have actually embedded this concept of oneness. They have embedded this. Even vratams, even if you see vratam also, Ganesh vratam or some other vrata, Ganesho pratigrunnhati, Ganesho vai dadati cha. The giver is Ganesha, the taker is Ganesha. Ananto pratigrunnhati, Ananto vai dadati cha. Ananta vratam, you say. So like that, everywhere, it is the mantras, they tell the right thing. Mantras, they are actually telling the actual message of the Upanishads, actual message of the Vedas. Whereas we think that we are worshipping Satyanarayana Vartam. We are doing a Satyanarayana Vartam now. We are doing some Devi Puja. We are doing some other puja. But then the mantras are one and the same. Devi Puja also, when we see when we decode that Devi Saptashati, when we decode that Devi Saptashati, we again find these three gunas only, and how a person has to transcend these three gunas. So that way, our rishis very, very intelligently embedded philosophy into rituals. So that if we see, it is a wonderful thing. In fact, that's a very good realization, a good revelation for me.
Indeed, indeed. I remember reading Swami Chinmayananda's works where he mentions all of this as form to formless. As he mentioned, how it leads to the philosophy.
Exactly. Slowly and slowly, probably our rishis thought, okay, this fellow is doing this. When you, for example, Sandhya Vandanam. What is Sandhya Vandanam? Sandhya Vandanam is actually a who am I meditation. Sandhya Vandanam is basically a sort of who am I guided meditation, the most ancient guided meditation on who am I. That we can say that because Sandhya, the meaning of Gayatri is that Vargo Devasya Himahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. That pure consciousness which is enlivening the minds of the antahkaranas of all the beings. So that way, reminding oneself of one's divine nature 3 times a day. It is like putting on the right spectacles and going into the world. So that is a spiritual exercise. So like that, without our knowledge, they have embedded so many things. And with the probably with the hope that okay, at some point of time, this fellow will think what is the meaning of it. So and then once he knows the meaning of it, then he goes further. So that is why our Upanishads also say Jnatva Karmani Kurvita. You have to know, understand it, and then you do karma. Then only you will get greater results. Even if you don't know, you will get some result. There is no problem. But then if you know, you will get a higher result. So that is how they say.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for such a very lovely account and sharing your insights for all the questions once again, Aravinda ji. I really, really would like to extend my gratitude for your time and sharing all your answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sri Hari. Thank you. Young man, I wish you all the best. And then I hope you are also studying Sanskrit.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. I wish you all the best. Thank you. And my namaskars to one and all. Thank you.
Viewers, please follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter, to get frequent updates on our upcoming interviews and talks. With that, I would like to conclude this interview. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Harihi Om Tat Sat.